Let's get some analysis now from Antony Loewenstein. He is a journalist and the author of the Palestine Laboratory, who was based in occupied East Jerusalem between 2016 and 2020. And he joins us live now from Sydney. Thank you for being with us on the program. Now, it doesn't seem like Israel is going to back off anytime soon. Netanyahu said this is going to be a long war. How is this going to affect relations with their Arab neighbors and their efforts to normalize relations with countries like Saudi Arabia?
Well, in the short term, I think at least publicly, a number of Arab states have slightly backed off, including Saudi. In fact, very much soon after the Hamas attack on the weekend, Saudis put out a number of statements which have been pretty clear in being critical of Israel and supporting of Palestine. Many other Arab states, their leaders have been a bit mixed on that. But let's not forget, for example, a country like Egypt, which for years and years has deeply repressed the Muslim Brotherhood there, who, of course, are connected in some ways historically to Hamas, and there are tens of thousands of their members in prisons in Egypt. So I think in many ways, many Arab leaders may come out and be critical of Israel publicly. Privately, my experience would suggest that, in fact, they'd be pretty happy if Hamas was obliterated militarily, or at least Israel tries to do so.
Israeli authorities do predict a possible friction between the country's Arab minority and majority Jews in connection with the Gaza war. Do you think we'll witness another Guardian of the Wall scenario, which the National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir is preparing for?
Well, not just preparing for, but in fact, arguably wanting. I mean, the thing I think that you have in some of the Israeli government ministers, particularly this year, is their vision is to pour oil onto the fire. That is their vision. Their vision is to basically make life so intolerable for Palestinians in Israel itself, but also in Palestine. I mean, their vision also, and I've heard in the last couple of days a number of senior politicians in Israel, senior commentators openly calling for ethnic cleansing. You know, one of the things that many of us who write about this issue have feared for years is the so-called justification or excuse that Israel would give if they wanted to do another mass transfer of people, as they did in 1948 and 1967, and no one, of course, knew what that incident would be. Now, whether last weekend's attack will be that incident, of course, we don't know, but the fear is that huge numbers of Palestinians could be forcibly moved, either from Gaza or somewhere else, to Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon. Now, how that will work practically and logistically, of course, is unclear, or they may be simply out of safety. Palestinians might need to or want to leave. But the fact is, huge numbers of Palestinians will not go. They have not gone in 48 or 67, and they won't go now. And the problem is that I worry that many Arab states, if they're bribed enough by the US or Israel, may well consider taking them.
Antony, what you're saying is very important because, as you mentioned, this has happened before. Context is crucial when it comes to this conflict. The way Hamas attacked came as a surprise to many, but the fact that they did attack shouldn't be surprising at all, right?
I mean, I agree. Obviously, the scale of it is unprecedented. I mean, as someone who's written about this conflict and lived in Palestine, visited Gaza a number of times for over 20 years, I was surprised and shocked by how sophisticated, obviously, it was in terms of the logistics, both on the border itself with Israel, but also within Israel, and the brutality, the sheer, really outrageous brutality is completely contemptible. But in terms of the reasons why, I mean, one can only get inside the head of Hamas. You know, one can only guess what they're actually thinking, practically speaking, and they would have game planned what would happen now. They would know that Israel would retaliate massively. They would know that much of the West, all the West, in fact, is supporting Israel. So the question is, it's either a mad suicide mission, which is not inconceivable, or they somehow believe that that's a way to get better rights for Palestinians in Gaza or the West Bank. I would question that logic, frankly, but I'm concerned with the fact that, as I've written about in my book, The Palestine Laboratory, Israel prides itself on being an intelligence and weapons master and over years of testing weapons on Palestinians. Clearly, the intelligence failed here majorly. There's no other way to see that. But I don't think it's going to have much impact, actually, long-term on Israel's arms industry because many, many states, including, for example, in Europe, after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, are almost begging Israel for more and more weapons, missile defense shields, spyware, that kind of technology. And my sense is because so much of the West is now in complete solidarity with Israel, as much of the West and the world was in solidarity with the US after their 9/11 in 2001. I think Israel's arms industry, despite clearly a massive blunder, will probably increase its profits in the coming years.
Right, and we do have a deteriorating humanitarian situation currently unfolding within the Gaza Strip. It's completely blocked off. They don't have access to food. They don't have access to water. No humanitarian aid is being brought into the Strip. What are these people going to do within the next couple of weeks when they completely run out of resources?
Look, I wish I knew the answer to that. I have some friends in Gaza that I've been in touch with. I'm in touch with them regularly, but particularly since the weekend, and they're fine for now. But as viewers will be aware, Israel is often carpet bombing neighbourhoods that have no strategic or military interests. They're committing just wanton war crimes and levelling apartment blocks and people's homes. So, of course, no one has any idea how they're going to possibly survive the night. So how are people going to get by? I think there'll be pressure on Israel to open some kind of humanitarian corridor. And this, I think, this is what comes to the concern, is that there is some kind of so-called justification in potentially moving large numbers of Palestinians from their homes, potentially out of Gaza. Now, whether the Arab countries or the West will encourage that or support that, because Israel claims that they want to try to destroy Hamas. To me, Israel's policy towards Hamas for the last 17 years is over. Their view was always we can manage and accept Hamas, really. Mm-hmm. The truth is now that view has changed. And I think they're going to try, at least attempt, to take out the entire Hamas military leadership. But let's not forget, a lot of the Hamas leadership aren't in Gaza. They're across the Arab Muslim world. And I think in the coming months and years, you will see huge numbers of Hamas leaders being assassinated by Israel. I think it's incredibly likely, as Israel has done in the past, to Palestinian leadership decades past. So I worry that is where it's going. So this conflict, once again, I fear, will not stay just in Gaza.
Antony Loewenstein, thank you so much for being with us here on the NewsHour and sharing that analysis with us.